After Rizal had written his novels Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, as well as working for La Solidaridad and for the Filipino community and its reformist agenda in Europe, he decided that the battle for Philippine sovereignty and independence should be in the Philippines. He was determined to return home despite objections from his parents. So what we will discuss today would be what happened to Rizal after he had written his novels and his with emphasis on his life in Dapitan, Philippines. Jose Rizal was warned by his family not to return to the Philippines because he might be arrested, exiled, or worse, imprisoned. But Rizal was adamant, so he did return. However, on the way back, he was stopped in Hong Kong by his family, who were also adamant about the danger to him. So it is here in Hong Kong where from the years 1891 to 1892, Rizal spent his time as an actual physician and ophthalmic surgeon. So you will see from the visuals here, to the visuals on the left are the visuals of Rizal's clinic, a plaque in Hong Kong which still exists today, and the bottom shows Rizal's calling card and his clinic hours for Hong Kong. The right visual shows a painting where Rizal is treating his mother for her eye ailment, and he did ensure that she would get better vision towards the end of her life. And Rizal was really practicing his profession here, so much so that he wrote one of his friends that he was very happy because he was supporting his family for the first time. While living in Hong Kong, Rizal still thought about his vision of the Philippine nation. One result of this was his writing of the charter of what would become known as La Liga Filipina, a plan of action and alternative to an inefficient and oppressive government. He returned to the country in 1892, and shortly thereafter, La Liga Filipina was launched and organized as an institution. However, the very next day, it was shut down by the Spanish authorities, and Jose Rizal was arrested. He was tried of sedition and found guilty. The punishment meted out to Jose Rizal was exile. And exile was to this place in Mindanao where Jose Rizal was deemed to be isolated from political and intellectual thought that would lead him to do anti-Spanish things. This was Dapitan, which is in Zamboanga del Norte. Dapitan is on the north tip of Zamboanga del Norte, and at that time it was very difficult to get to and was considered a good place of exile for Rizal, not only for its distance from Manila, but also because the parish was run by Jesuits, who had, of course, a history with Rizal. Initially, Rizal was to stay in the parish house, but asked to recant, he refused to do so. This is the plaque of the place where Rizal lived in Dapitan, in Talisay, and we will see how he got to be able to live here. Initially, Jose Rizal lived with the military commandant of the place, named Ricardo Carnicero. They struck up a friendship because they were probably the only two with similar backgrounds in Dapitan. And in fact, Jose Rizal wrote a poem for Carnicero, kay Don Ricardo Carnicero, which is in Bisaya, as you can see here. So this is just the continuation. So if you would like to look at it and analyze it or read it some more, you are free to do so. This is the plan of Rizal's land in Dapitan. And he acquired 70 hectares of land with crops such as abaca, coconut, sugar, and numerous fruit trees. This was because Carnicero and Rizal had bought a lottery ticket together and they had won part of it. With his winnings, Rizal bought this land in Dapitan with the intention of making it a very productive and perhaps a model farm. Writing about the land he had purchased in Dapitan, Rizal says, "The boundary of my land cannot be traversed on foot in 4 hours. All of it is paid, and I have my title in order. Over my land runs a small river where one can take a bath, only that it needs to be improved. For a beginning, I have now 1 pig, which the commandant gave me. I had 1 hen and 8 ducklings, but it was lost, and these died. A big mango tree gives shade to the bath. The water comes down from high up the mountain in small cascades. This for my sisters and nephews. I have besides 16 cocoa trees for making oil, and from which we get tender coconut meat." So we see Rizal embarking on his life as a farm owner and a farmer in Dapitan. This is the Casa Cuadrada, the main house where Rizal lived in Talisay, and it still exists today, and you will see that it's a very typical but humble Filipino house. Aside from doing all of these things, Casa Redonda, the octagonal house where Rizal conducted school in Dapitan, is also seen. And that is because Rizal knew that education was very important, and he opened a school with a curriculum which he felt was needed by Filipinos. It was very heavy on science, and it was more modern and less religious than the education that was present in the country at the time. After teaching school in the mornings, Jose Rizal conducted clinic in the afternoons. To the right, you can see the clinic where he actually saw patients, and to the left is part of the hospital that he built and still stands today. These are 2 separate wards for male and female patients. Jose Rizal did not charge his patients anything, and they gladly gave him produce, eggs, rice, etc., whatever they could. His reputation, however, had preceded him, and Rizal still had patients from Singapore and Hong Kong, usually from the expatriate Europeans, who were eager to see a European-trained doctor for their ailments. Rizal had a profitable hemp and coconut business, as well as investments in fishing and a sari-sari store. Rizal also organized the abaca farmers in Dapitan into a cooperative so as to get better prices on the sale of their abaca and hemp. Aside from that, Rizal had a lime manufacturing and a brick manufacturing. And he employed his students as well as other people from Dapitan. With the help of his students and using his degree of agrimensor from Ateneo, Rizal planned and built 2 water systems. One water system was in Dapitan, it was larger, and the other one, a smaller water system, he built on his land in Talisay. Until the 1950s, this water system was still used for drinking water in Dapitan. Rizal also invented a cigarette lighter, which he called sulpakan, and sent it to Blumentritt in 1887 as a gift. The lighter used a compressed air mechanism. You can also see here the letter he sent to Blumentritt with a diagram of the lighter. While in Dapitan, Rizal also invented a wooden machine for making bricks, which turned out about 6,000 bricks daily. So Rizal, you can see, was an inventor. His mind was active. He was also doing very productive work in Dapitan. He also drained the swamps which caused malaria in Dapitan. He remodeled the town and built a relief map of Dapitan. He installed street lamps in Dapitan and used coconut as fuel. Rizal also had contributions to science. He sent specimens he found to the museums in Europe, especially to the Dresden Museum in Germany. In turn, he received scientific books and surgical instruments. He had built up a rich collection of conches, and he had discovered rare species like the Rhacophorus rizali, a rare frog, the Draco Rizali, a flying dragon, and the Apogonia Rizali, a small beetle, which, as you see, were all named after him. In addition, Rizal published scientific articles in the journals in Germany in German, and he usually sent these through his friend Blumentritt, who in turn sent them to the German journals for publication. So you can see here Rizal emerging as a scientist. Rizal drew the different varieties of fish that he saw in Dapitan and included very vivid descriptions, even the way they tasted. It is also interesting to note that Rizal imported a fisherman from Laguna together with his family and, more importantly, his lambat or fishing net to teach the people of Dapitan how to fish in this more efficient manner. Jose Rizal seemed to live a very productive and full life in Dapitan. But of course, as a human, he often felt lonely or disconnected from the cause that he had been pushing for the longest time. In this quote, he says, "I am in very good health. However, I notice that the heat is affecting me somewhat. I do not feel my usual gaiety and I am less active. Besides, I have become more brown, almost black. I am walking under the sun every day." So we see in Dapitan that Rizal was doing so many things. He was a teacher, he was a doctor, he was a farmer, he was a scientist, he was a community worker. And we see in Dapitan that he was bringing to life what he thought a good community should be. We can never discount the effect he had on this community in Dapitan, and it shows to us the effect of one man on a community. Jose Rizal lives in Dapitan with his sisters. Various nephews and nieces visit him and stay for long periods of time. But like all humans, Rizal sometimes longs for companionship. Not long after, a woman named Josephine Bracken shows up in Dapitan. She is the daughter of a British man, who is seeking treatment for his eye ailment from Jose Rizal. When the man leaves for Hong Kong, Josephine Bracken opts to remain in Dapitan with Rizal. And it is here that she accompanies him in his exile. And we only hope that the two of them could have been happier together. The end. Thank you.